Once again, guys, good morning, everybody. My name is Jordan Mosley. It's my co-host,
Steven Untied.
How you guys doing? Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. It's relatively nasty weather in Charlotte, but it's another day nonetheless, another weekend nonetheless gone by, another good weekend of sports. So let's jump right into it. Once again, I want to thank Huga off of Remount Road, a co-working co-op, location that allows us to use their podcasting studio. So definitely appreciate you guys for that for sure. Steven, what's going on with you, man? How you doing?
Not much, man. Doing well. Packers did not get the W I was hoping for yesterday. I know we're on bye week, but the Vikings winning again.
Gotcha.
And they're down 20 points. Can Denver please just score one more?
Take it from a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan. I was really pissed to see that take place yesterday because you're up 20-0, just win the game, and you got Von Miller, and you got Chris Harris Jr., and you got Derek Wolfe, and you got Adam Gotsis, underrated D lineman in the league, interior like Shea Tech, one Tech. So getting straight into it, LeBron James playing in front of Kobe Bryant. Thought that was really, really nostalgic for me. I'm a 90 baby. I'm 29 years old. So I saw Kobe as a rookie. I saw LeBron as a rookie. I saw how the world kind of turned upside down and turned sideways on its axis. Good morning, Chuck. What's going on, my boy? I saw it, kind of turn on its axis when LeBron hit the league. So I thought that was really, really interesting. And the dunk, I think that was Bajelica or Halika. Excuse me for mispronunciation, but he dunked on the guy, and he literally turned into dust from one of the Instagram posts I saw.
Oh, man.
Kind of figuratively, but nonetheless.
It's
really dope.
What he's doing. I mean, he could have put him on his hands and just made him his next pregame celebration.
Right.
I mean, from what I got out of the start of this NBA, LeBron's still the king. I'm tired of people saying Kawhi's the best. Kawhi doesn't create for his teammates the way LeBron has his entire career. Right now, he's leading the league in assists in his 17th year. 25 points a game, 7.5 rebounds, shooting almost 50% and 35 from three.
I feel like this. If LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers were to win a championship this year, he could begin to entertain me, or he could begin to convince me to want to start having the Michael versus LeBron conversation. 17 years in, this would have been his third. This would have been an NBA championship with his third different team potentially.
Him and Kawhi are both vying for the first people in history to accomplish that feat.
Exactly, which is really dope.
Different teams. That's
really
crazy.
Dope. But I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to disrespect LeBron like that and try to compare the two like a lot of people like to. Kawhi's got a long way to go to cover the ground that LeBron has covered, but I digress. The NCAA. So, James Wiseman, for those who don't know, power forward, number one recruit in the country last year, went to Memphis, found out that Penny Hardaway, the head coach of Memphis, who's also been named a booster by the NCAA now, was in a position where they paid for his moving expenses to move him into Memphis, into the greater Memphis area. The NCAA found out about it. They've now suspended him. They went far enough to have a court-granted injunction kind of put in for James Wiseman to kind of like segue around the NCAA, and it ended up kind of like they kind of didn't want to continue to chase that because they didn't want to mess up anything legacy-wise that could potentially happen for the greatness of this season for Memphis basketball due to them dealing with an ineligible player. With the Chase Young situation, he definitely will be the number one defensive player taken in the draft this upcoming year. Ohio State defensive end. The Rose Bowl last year, if I'm not mistaken, he had his girlfriend be flown out there from a loan that was taken from a close friend, a local friend of his, personal friend of his in Maryland. The NCAA's got to cut it out, bro. I'm just being honest. If you want a great product, then you have to understand that there are certain parameters that have to be taken to acquire said player to be able to take care of a said player situation, for that player to be present in the realm that you need him or her to be present in, relatively him nowadays, to be present in, to be able to be dominant for your college football or college basketball program, to be elite and get the type of notoriety that they all as coaches and things of that nature, and athletic directors and school chancellors and school presidents yearn to have. So,
and here's my thing with the NCAA: make a decision. Do you want it to be a clean sport? Do you want them to be punished whenever they're found out to be taking money in any situation? so they have to be that careful. But at the same time, they don't even give him a 4-game suspension like they said they were going to. They give him a 2-game, which is convenient, seeing he'll be back for Penn State, Ohio State, which is the whole thing. They make $1 million off that game alone, from the TV rights alone.
I agree.
So you're talking about getting mad because a player takes a loan to get through college, or maybe it wasn't even that much, like you said, to fly his girlfriend out, or whatever the loan is. Whatever the loan is for.
We're talking. I mean, the kid's from Maryland. Chase Young's from Maryland. So we're talking about like a couple $100 for a plane ticket, people. Like,
yeah.
And by the way, the NCAA and with the NCAA making the ruling over the last month that if I'm not mistaken, 2022 or 2021, they're going to start paying for athletes for their likeness. So if you guys have made such a concrete or such a earth-shattering statement like that, then stick to your guns and stop trying to be the police, because you've already told the world that eventually you're not trying to be the police anymore. So don't try to get the last like 5 or 6 big fish criminals you can find on the back end before you get out of the criminal service. That makes no sense to me. I'm not a fan of it. I don't appreciate it. I'm just not a fan of it at all whatsoever.
Either throw the book at the guy, or let him get paid.
Right. Now, speaking of equality or doing the right thing, the DeAndre Hopkins pass interference yesterday against that Marlon Humphrey committed against him that didn't get called versus the Baltimore Ravens.
I mean, it's awful. He mauled him. He was there a full second before the ball got there.
Right.
And not even that. At first I watched it, I said, okay, maybe it was an uncatchable ball. Right. You know, just the angle you're getting live doesn't show you that. But you look at it, and DeAndre Hopkins is tracking the ball. You can see his eyes.
Correct.
The guy snatches him down, and his hand moves, and the ball is right where his hand was.
Exactly.
And I don't know what's pass interference and what isn't.
I just feel like this. There are less obvious pass interference calls that get called, and DBs out there that hate that they have those calls made against them. But by the same token, there's a situation where a receiver, or I should say a receiver being in that situation and not getting that call, like, there's plenty of receivers out there in the league that are like, wow, that's what I'm up against now. But the beautiful evil of that, and you look at the beauty in the beautiful evil of that with the defensive back feels like, wow, I might get a chance to play it a little bit more like closer to the cuff now. The referee still needs to make the proper decision, so that's not the improper, or that's not the incorrect message that gets put across.
Yeah, what is more egregious than what Marlon Humphreys did yesterday?
I won't speak to that because I don't have an answer, to be purely honest with you, but I will say this. I will say that it's very, very difficult for me to believe that a guy or that a DB in the league over the next 2 weeks isn't going to try what Marlon Humphrey did and try to get away with it, which is like I said, which is what makes the referee's lack of judgment even worse.
Oh, it didn't even take a week. It only took to the 4 o'clock games.
Exactly.
And we had Richard Sherman, who's a Hall of Famer, probably more likely than not.
Richard Sherman's a Hall of Famer
because he's the face of what he was. He was the face of a historically great defense.
Yeah.
He tackles the other face of a historically great offense, the Cardinals in 2010.
Right.
I mean, he just straight up tackled him. He was going to walk in for a touchdown, easy. Right. And he just tackled him, doesn't get called on the field, and then they replay that one and they call it.
Right.
You don't know if, and people like to say, oh, they're just giving Larry Fitzgerald the benefit of the doubt, or they want to keep it a close game because it's the marquee rookie and coach versus 9-1 San Francisco, or 8-1 at the time.
I got a viewer that just tapped in, a very good friend of mine, Charles McCullum. By the way, he's going to tear the IFL up. Just putting that out there, guys. But so he says, it's hard to see as a novice football fan what pass interference is, what it even is anymore. And I could totally understand where you're coming from, Chuck, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. And then on top of that, with the replay and all of it, to piggyback on what you said in your comment, it's a scenario to me where the replay helps, But if you can replay that, a play like that is so egregiously wrong, and you can't make a decision or a review to want to make a play like that right, then they need to do away with the whole replay process and just keep it by the eye like they used to. You know what I mean? So I definitely.
I agree. I was happier when it was, oh, did you see that shitty call this weekend? And then
exactly.
It's not, hey, did you see that shitty call? And then did you miss them not reverse the shitty call? It's like it's awful because you're like, oh man, that's such a bad call, but they'll reverse it and they don't do it, and you're left in the dust again. You're like, oh my gosh, this is bad.
I agree wholeheartedly. Keeping on the same subject of football, we're going to go straight into the NFL weekend. I'm a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan, so we lost to New England. I'll leave it at that. We should have scored. Nelson Aguilar, I hate your guts. Carson Wentz, you're cool, but like, throw the ball here. Shout out to the National League champion 2018 Carolina Cobras. But yeah, throw the ball here, bro. You know what I mean? Throw the ball in my chest so where I can be able to catch it. Or throw the ball here or here. Don't throw the ball way over here. Don't throw the ball way down here, way down there, guys. You know, just meet me halfway. Just thought I'd put that out there. And the Atlanta Falcons are on a 2-game winning streak.
Oh, who would have thought? Dan Quinn, they're like, hot seat. And he was like,
2 words.
I'm going to grab a cooler.
Pass rush.
Yeah. What, 12 sacks over the last 2 weeks?
If I'm not mistaken, and I hope I'm not wrong, but I'll give secondary clause or secondary proof of this. I'm pretty sure the Atlanta Falcons lead the league in sacks.
Which is crazy because
if I'm not mistaken, I heard the game first half yesterday. They got a sack, 37 sacks.
I think they had zero through the first 4 weeks. Like literally had 0 sacks.
But when you got Tack McKinley, Adrian Claiborne, Vic Beasley Jr., Grady Jarrett, who still to me is one of the most underrated defensive linemen in all football because he's so little, short wise, not stature wise. But when you got all those guys, you know, Devondre Campbell, great blitzing linebacker to be 6'3" and can cover.
Where was this at the first 4 weeks? I think that's what hurts Dan Campbell the most.
All I'll say is
you have the talent and you're not. It took you 8 weeks to figure out how to just put in effort.
True enough. All I'll say is this.
Not just effort, but
no,
that scheme,
enough,
you know.
All I'll say is this. At the end of the day, the Atlanta Falcons, like they have too much talent to do what they do.
Yeah, I mean, I saw people picking them for a Super Bowl, for NFC, coming out of the NFC.
I mean, when you look at them on paper week 1, they had the best. They had top 3 roster in the NFC.
I mean, their talent offensively.
And y'all got to do something with
great.
Keanu. Y'all got to do something with Keanu there. Y'all got to get y'all a new safety. That first round pick is officially a bust. Because, I mean, he can't stay healthy. Not that he can't play, he just can't stay healthy. And
okay.
Go Patriots. Jesus Christ. It's crazy. So, balance on offense in Dallas. Now, let me be clear. People ask why is Dallas right? Chuck, y'all ain't really did nothing. Y'all only won 2 straight. You know what I'm saying? Y'all ain't really, they ain't really did nothing. But nah, back on the Dallas Cowboys, I feel like their balance on offense is directly credited to the offensive line. Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, Thomas Smith, Connor Williams, and Lyle Collins, respectively. Still, to me, the best offensive line in football. They got two all pros this year, in my opinion. Travis Frederick and Zach Martin. Zach Martin's kind of the popular all pro vote by default nowadays. Lyle would be a Pro Bowler. Tyron Smith would be a Pro Bowler by way of popularity of the fan vote. Connor Williams is kind of the odd man out because he's the baby. Oh well. So with their balance on offense, Dak Prescott 444 yesterday, 3 touchdowns. Zeke Elliott had under 50 yards rushing, and they won. Right.
Second week in a row.
Right.
That's what bothers me about this team is they don't have a good enough defense.
They don't play defense well
to not run the ball, and they're just abandoning the run in the second halves of these games. Right. They're not going to Zeke at all.
Well, you got to think about it. He's got weapons. Amari Cooper,
sure.
Randall Cobb, first 100-yard game in 5 seasons.
Michael Gallup. Looking like
Dope.
a legitimate number 2.
Michael Gallup and Calvin Ridley are 2 of the young receivers that are going to lead the new wave of receivers in the NFL when it's all said and done. I feel like Michael Gallup might be one of the most underrated players in all the NFL.
Amari Cooper's not old. He's only 25.
My point exactly. You know what I mean? And they also got Blake Jarwin, and you have Reliable, a.k.a. Jason Witten. So that caters to that too. Now, defensively, I agree that they struggle. But they have too many good players. You got Tank Lawrence. You got $100 million. Put it like this: good or bad is a different. That's an argument. You got $100 million pass rusher. You got 2 $50 million linebackers. Well, one $54 million linebacker. You got another one you got to pay, and you got a guy who's already made 2 contracts in Dallas Cowboy money, purely. Then you have an all-pro corner, or a corner who was first-team all-pro last year. So we'll see going forward, and he's got to show improve continuously. And then we're talking about Byron Jones. You got to me one of the best young DBs in the league, under 3 years tenure, in Chidobe Awuzie from Colorado. Okay. He's usually their like field corner, the far, like long side of the field, number 24, if I'm not mistaken. The 2-year pro out of Colorado.
Robert Quinn, who's racking up sacks the last couple of weeks out of Carolina.
Quick story about Robert Quinn before I get to the next game that I want to speak about right quick with the whole Chicago fiasco. The kid had a brain tumor senior year, class of 2008 from South Carolina, Fort Dorchester High School. Kid had a brain tumor. Ended up having his brain tumor removed during football season. Came back and won a heavyweight state title like wrestling. 3 years running. Kid's a beast. But the Chicago Bears. I think Mitch Trubisky is definitely headed to the pine. I don't know who, what, when, where, why, or how, but I definitely think he's headed to the pine. Which also leads me to my next point. Cam Newton on line 1 to the Chicago Bears. Picture next year, Cam Newton, a healthy Trey Burton, Tariq Cohen, David Montgomery, who's a new, shorter version of Thunder and Lightning, and then you got Allen Robinson with an effective Taylor Gabriel, who can still stretch the field vertically when he's in the right situation. So
and Anthony Miller.
Exactly.
They got 3 legit receivers, a good tight end, and Shaheen's not a bad backup tight end or second tight end.
Question for my viewer that just commented about Mitchell Trubisky needing a quarterback coach. Do you feel like Matt Nagy is the answer to that, or are you saying that because you know that Matt Nagy is not the answer? Just thought I'd ask that to the viewer.
I'll answer that if you want.
Sure.
Matt Nagy made Alex Smith look like an all-pro for 5 years down in Kansas City. So if he can't do that with Trubisky, I don't think it's him. I want to because I'm a Carolina fan.
We're talking about two quarterbacks with different skill sets, in a way. Now, granted, Alex Smith was more.
Are we?
Alex Smith was more deceptively athletic than he was given credit for coming out of Utah way back in 03.
But I think that's where they're similar. I think Trubisky is an athletic quarterback too.
But Alex Smith doesn't show that same athleticism that Mitchell Trubisky has in his skill set. Okay, put it like this. Alex Smith was not nearly as athletic as he is in Chicago now as Trubisky is in Chicago now currently when he was having his last heydays with Kansas City pre-Washington Redskins and his leg being mangled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and he had success, but nonetheless. Exactly, I agree with that. Like, that was Alex Smith being Alex Smith. Not to say Matt Nagy's coaching didn't help, but I don't think we're talking about the style of talent.
I mean, we're talking about a dude that's 1 year removed from Coach of the Year because he made Trubisky look so good last year.
Right.
I think the difference is their defense isn't holding people, so their offense is on the field more, or their defense is on the field more, the offense isn't getting into rhythm, which I think is what it is. I think Trubisky's a rhythm quarterback. He gets hot, and then he starts playing a little better, gets more confidence. But it's not carrying over from game to game because their defense isn't getting stops, and their running game, while David Montgomery looks good, he has to break 2 tackles just to get to the back to the line of scrimmage almost every play.
I can see that because their offensive line is patchwork at best. I definitely agree with that wholeheartedly. Speeding it through it a little bit faster. Minnesota, Kirk Cousins definitely stepped up yesterday. Dalvin Cook wasn't much of a big factor, but he definitely led the way in coming back against a defense against a Denver Broncos defense that was ridiculously disappointing in the second half yesterday. Stephon Diggs has 5 100-yard games now in the NFL. That leads the NFL in most 100-yard games by a wide receiver. Touche. I can agree with the Andy Reid comment, Chuck. I can agree with that. Let me see. Going down to Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas leads the NFL in yards and catches. He gets 9.4 catches a game. That's almost 10 receptions a game. My co-host just asked me. We was talking about in the green room. We were saying, well, how does that happen? I say, well, Teddy Bridgewater's there, so he knows to find his number one. And Drew Brees, his success has always been finding his number one receiver. Hence, all the success that him and Marquez Colston had all those years in New Orleans. So it just kind of made sense to me as far as why that took place. Lamar Jackson yesterday, 17 to 24, 222 yards, 4 touchdowns, 86 yards rushing on 9 carries. He has as of 3 days ago, he has multiple games with a perfect quarterback rating. First time ever in the NFL history with 17 games minimum with a regular, now modern day NFL schedule, basically.
Just going back to the Drew Brees thing 1 second. What I think they're doing now differently than they've done in the past is before it was the scheme and it was Drew Brees finding a guy open. It seems like now they're scheming Michael Thomas open. They're running routes that they know he can't be stopped on. Same with Alvin Kamara. I think they're starting to tailor their offense to their superstars, whereas before when they had Colston and they had Kenny Stills back in the day and some of those guys, the Kickin before he's back now.
Right.
They weren't putting up huge numbers like Michael Thomas is because they had a system that was, you never know who we're going to, and we're going to spread it out as much as we can. And now they're targeting Cooks and Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, and that's pretty much it. They've kind of given up on Ted Ginn did catch a touchdown yesterday, but they don't go deep.
Well, I mean, you gotta look at Drew Brees. Drew Brees works. He works in 3 windows. He works number 1 receiver to potential number 1 tight end threat if he's got a guy like a Jimmy Graham, and then he's looking at his best tailback threat. If he's got a speedster, Devery Henderson from back in the day, if you guys remember that name, or a Kickin Jr. nowadays, he likes his speed guy, but he likes some vertical seams. You know, so he likes that vertical. He likes that big play, that bomb play, to that type of guy. You know, I can't say the first word of the comment from said Panthers fan that just chimed in, but yeah, man, Kyle Allen ain't in for y'all, bro. So much for that. From there, the Buffalo Bills, they're 7-3. I was at a sports bar yesterday. I do security down in the alleyway here in Charlotte, North Carolina, where French Quarter Tavern is located. And a Bills fan was at a bar with me. I was at a bar called Hooligans. Sports fan sitting there, Bills fan, diehard Bills fan. He was so nervous the entire game. They're beating the pants off the Miami Dolphins. He was ridiculously nervous the whole entire time. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, it was funny. It was
and he should be
hilarious.
That team should make you nervous if you're a Bills fan.
Right.
That, like you were saying earlier, that's a fraudulent 7-3.
I wouldn't say it's fraudulent because it's very difficult to win in the NFL week to week.
I agree.
The novice sports fan has no idea of how hard it is to win in professional football week to week.
I think the teams they've beaten are combined like 10-30. They're just or something like that. They're bad.
I agree with that comment too, Chuck, about the whole, like, he was speaking to quarterbacks and how they're successful because they're great quarterbacks, not so much a quarterback coach. Like, for example, he gave an example of Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. Now, granted, they got Greg Roman. They do some things similar to what he did with Colin Kaepernick, but we're not talking about the same type of athlete. Both mobile, but totally different athlete, and I'm willing to argue that with anybody. That being said, Lamar Jackson working privately with his own quarterback coach, his own personal trainer, learning how to have the proper mechanics to throw the ball in the pocket successfully, things of that nature. That's what made him great. Greg Roman, what's my man's name? John Harbaugh, you know what I mean? Those guys are just receiving credit from the success of the work the kid put in. Which
I gotta disagree, man.
But
they run the ball more than anyone, and that's not a accident.
But when you have 9 carries for 86 yards, you're running the ball.
Some of those are designed. But what I mean is him running the ball so much and their team running the ball so much, it's what opens up these easy passing lanes.
Right.
Because when he's throwing to guys, they're almost always wide open. He doesn't throw people open.
Right.
Because he's not forced to, not that he couldn't.
Right.
And that's what made Cam great the year he was, scored 10 rushing touchdowns his MVP year. That's what made Mike Vick good in the end. When he has that fake a run option, whoa. Well, when Trubisky fakes a run option, you're not scared. When Lamar Jackson does it, you step up. Those linebackers take that step.
I feel like this. It's a scheme thing, too. Because
they wouldn't build this offense if they didn't have the greatness that is Lamar Jackson and his legs.
I don't disagree with that. But all I'm saying is this. That development doesn't necessarily speak to him being around a certain coach that's putting a battery in his back. That's all I'm saying. Like, at the end of the day, like, well, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you with that, but all I'm saying is at the end of the day, that's exactly what I was getting at with the point I'm making now. Like, to me, Lamar Jackson makes the plays that Lamar Jackson makes because he's a great quarterback. Good morning, Coach. What's going on? it's not so much about a coach. Because what people tend not to realize when you're not in professional football is a coach does one thing. He calls a play. He doesn't worry about a kid if he's ready to play or not. He doesn't worry about if a kid has watched enough film for the week. He doesn't worry about if a kid who's talking about quarterbacks now. He's not worried about if a quarterback has gotten together with his receivers to figure it all out. That's all up to a great quarterback. Lamar Jackson does those things, and he does those things very well. How do I know? Because of the results that are being proven and they're being put out there. The kid's got 2 games where he's had a perfect passer rating. It's Hall of Fame quarterbacks that never achieved that in the season.
Yeah, but there's also Hall of Fame quarterbacks that throw more than 20 times a game or 15 times a game too.
Yeah, but there aren't too many Hall of Fame quarterbacks that can throw the ball 24 times a game, and then they get 30, and then you add 9 more plays to that where he almost got 100 yards rushing. That's what makes Lamar Jackson a great player, to help the coach. But once again, amongst men, we can agree to disagree.
I mean, he is a great,
So,
he's been great so far, but I do
Right.
think it's the coaching that makes him.
I feel like this. This is one of the.
I'm not saying like he wouldn't have been this. I just think he's only gotten here this fast because they took this offense and they said, hey, we're going to do exactly what you are good at. We're going to take all the bad stuff away. We're going to stop having you do 4 reads in a pass or 3 reads even. He is deep, tight end, gone. That's his reads, and that's the way he should be.
I mean, I feel like this. That's arguable. All I'll say is this. You got to play the game. Like the arena coach that I play for currently, his favorite quote is, "Keep the labor, bring me the baby." They're not. The coaches can't put in the work. Like, I can draw up a play, but if the kid can't carry it out, then I have nothing. My point is this. I can
Argument is Belichick's defense the last 20 years.
And what did Lamar Jackson do to it? He turned into Swiss cheese. Did he not?
But that's the game plan. That's my point.
But the game plan has to be executed by the player.
But it doesn't.
It don't matter how. I wouldn't give a damn. I wouldn't give a damn if it's the Vince Lombardi Packers sweep. If you take away Jim Turner and the other great guard that they had, you don't have that same Packers sweep. You take away Paul Hornung, you don't have the same Packers sweep.
You take away DeMarco Murray and Ezekiel Elliott does the same thing.
Disagree wholeheartedly. You take away the old line, you don't have either one.
That's my point, though.
But
that's an offensive scheme. That came from the GM. That didn't come from Jason.
Well, that comes from the
Garrett.
coaching. The GMs don't know X's and O's. They don't do anything about X's and O's. But at the end of the day, a player, I mean, yeah, they know about enough X's and O's to be able to properly evaluate talent, but trust me, bro, they're not making game plan for Sunday.
Oh, no, that's not what I mean. But I mean, like, Jerry Jones as the GM said, hey,
make this player better.
We're going to get offensive linemen. Right? When they said, oh, Jerry Jones said, I want Johnny Manziel, and Steven Jones said, no, we're getting Zach Martin.
Right.
Like, those things are what shapes a franchise and moves you in this direction. What I'm saying is Tony Pollard behind that offensive line looks like he could put up 115 yards a game.
Right. I agree, Dion. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, Steven. I guess amongst men, like I said, once again, we just have to agree to disagree until I move on from this point. But at the end of the day, I just feel like the player has to play. You can have the best scheme in the world. You don't got a player with the balls to go out there and ball out and do what he got to do. It ain't gonna happen. Period. And once again, that's just my opinion. I'm not saying that that's a fact. I'm not saying that what you're saying is wrong. We just have to agree to disagree, I guess. Max Crosby from the Oakland Raiders, 4 sacks yesterday. Big shout out to Chuck Smith, Chuck Smith Training Systems, pass rush guru. If you ever want to lie to pass rush, definitely go see Chuck Smith.
Raiders, biggest surprise in the NFL so far?
Biggest surprise to me in the NFL so far. The Oakland Raiders, not so much. They're middle of the road.
If Kansas City loses tonight, they're in first place in the AFC West.
Yeah, but who's to say that? When's the last time you've seen the Oakland Raiders have staying power throughout the back end of the season? I'll wait.
But I mean, they've never had this team before.
I'm not saying
or not,
but I'm just saying
since John Gruden was there the last time. That's the answer, I think.
I'm not. And by the way, Chris, I'm let y'all know, Chris and Chuck, I'm on y'all side. The player got to make the play. He's the one saying that it's about the coach. I'm not taking away from what Lamar said.
Well, we've had the Tom Brady conversation before, and we both agree that he's not very talented.
I can't agree with you on that. I think Tom Brady is ridiculously talented. Man, he's Tom Brady. Come on, man.
But if you want to call consistency a talent,
LeBron James ain't
is consistency a talent?
He's great because of coaching. Like,
No, that's a totally different sport, man. That's a different sport.
Great players are great players. You gotta be a ball man. I get jury called a ball player. I didn't get this because I got it because we had a great coach. But I'm saying you gotta be a baller, man. That's all I'm saying. You just gotta be a ball player. But by the same token, the AFC playoff picture, I like that though because it kind of loosened up the room a little bit. I like that. AFC playoff picture. One word for it: murky. There's 6 teams with a 5-5 or 6-4 record that are in the playoff hunt right now in the AFC. Usually it's kind of opposite. The AFC kind of looks nicer than the NFC and so on and so forth. The NFC playoff picture, on the other hand, is super, super top heavy. Super, super, super top heavy. Ridiculously top heavy. There's 5 teams with an 8-3 record or better. That being said, right, he tripping talking about how it's Tom Brady not telling. I'm gonna leave him alone. Tripping. But by the same token, they give you hell because I
think I can throw the ball as far as Tom Brady can.
I totally disagree.
I said as far, not as well. It's going to be wobbly, but I think I can as far as he does.
I'm not having that conversation with you, man. Anyway, the NFC playoff picture. I consider it being top heavy. Well, that's one word for it. I would call it top heavy. There's 5 teams with an 8-3 and better record. So really, the top 5 seeds in the NFC playoffs are really going to be locked up in the next 6 weeks. These are the teams potentially that could have a 6 seed. Dallas Cowboys. Well, they could be the 6 seed. Dallas, the Rams, my Philadelphia Eagles, the Carolina Panthers, the Chicago Bears, the Detroit Lions. Potentially, but maybe not really. Put Detroit in this too. Detroit, Arizona, Atlanta, and Tampa Bay. If Arizona, Atlanta, and Tampa Bay even want to think about the playoffs, they got to all win out because they all have 7 losses or better. So I'm really keeping them out of the conversation. Sorry, Falcons fans. But
I think Philly is going to win the NFC East because of the schedule they have
going
down the stretch.
We have 2 games. They just Kay Adams just said this morning on Good Morning Football Info Network. We have less than 2. Well, we only have 2 teams with a winning record left in our schedule, and we still got to play Dallas. And one thing about it, like a lot of people say Dallas, like kind of gets away from things. Oh, let me go back. Let me rewind. A lot of people say Dallas like has our number. They won 4 straight. Not tripping. Good morning, Mr. Lisa. How are you? So with that being said, thank you for listening too. So though, like they're up 4 games against us, 4 in a row. But we never ever allow that to go beyond that point to where like, okay, well, we never allow like that to happen. Then a big game comes and we drop that big game. My point is, the next time we play Dallas, I'm willing to guarantee we beat Dallas because of how important and how big of a magnitude of a game it'll be. Now, granted, we won't have certain guys that makes my guarantee kind of, but we'll see because I have faith in my team. So it is what it is.
I think really I think Carolina, maybe the Rams are the only other 2 teams that have a chance down the stretch. But I think the Rams' schedule is too difficult. I think they have to play Seattle and 49ers again. Right. And I think Carolina, their quarterback's just not good enough. He looked okay, but once again, man, this whole thing, that's why the 49ers are 9-1 and the Patriots are 9-1. They're playing subpar competition and it's boosting them. Which is what I think Kyle Allen did for a couple of weeks.
But to me, that conversation falls on deaf ears because it's so hard to win in the NFL every Sunday. And there's so many good teams in the league that lose every Sunday from teams that we as novice sports fans don't think are going to be able to be on the same wave as them. Perfect example. Bears and the Raiders in London. Everybody thought Oakland was going to go over there and run into that Bears defense and they weren't going to be able to do nothing with Chicago. They beat Chicago in London by like 7 points or something like that. My point is that's just a point of what I'm saying. You know what I mean? But once again, it's all opinion. You know what I mean? So that's just I guess that's just both of our takes on it. The Monday night game, Kansas City at the Chargers. Not Kansas City. It's technically Kansas City at San Diego. San Diego will be the home team. This game will be live from Mexico City, Mexico, Stadium Azteca. Good morning, Auntie Jerry. So from there, it will be in Mexico City tonight. Obviously, you got Pat Mahomes led team, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Damian Williams at the running back. For LA, you got Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram. You got Phillip Rivers, obviously the Riverboat gambler that he is, Keenan Allen, and Melvin Gordon. You got Frank Clark on their defense for the Chiefs. On the defense, of course, you got You got Casey Hayward, one of the most underrated corners in all of football.
That's the name I was about to bring up.
Right.
The Packers shouldn't have let him go. Been looking for a number one corner
sure.
ever since, but he
sure.
is underrated, and because he's on the West Coast, he doesn't get talked enough.
For sure.
I
definitely agree.
And for
I feel like Casey Hayward has been a top 4 corner in the NFL the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, his rookie year, if Kuechly doesn't have 155 tackles, and
he might win Rookie of the Year.
I think he does. I think he wins Defensive Rookie of the Year. He didn't give up a single catch his rookie year. Not a single one in man-to-man coverage.
Once again, guys, this is my numbers guy, so I know he ain't lying. Wow, I didn't even know that.
That's what I'm saying. If Luke Kuechly doesn't have the greatest defensive rookie year we've seen since LT, then Casey Hayward is a more known a household commodity, I believe.
I agree with you. I'm taking Kansas City 30-20. 30-20 Kansas City. Thursday night, this upcoming Thursday, 3 days from now, we got the Indianapolis Colts at the Houston Texans. This is a regular U.S. site game, so it'll be at Houston. I got Indy 27-21, but I'm going to change my score. I got Indy 27-17. Jacoby Brissett is really playing well right now. He's really playing well right now. Indianapolis has a pretty okay defense.
The best young linebacker since Kuechly came out in Darius Leonard. The dude's an absolute animal.
Shout out South Carolina State. Shout out HBCU football.
Also just a ball hawk.
Right.
He's always near the ball, always making a play.
157 tackles as a rookie.
Yeah. The dude's incredible. I actually got. I'm gonna, because it's at Houston. I think Houston's gonna win this game.
Right.
One thing I do like about the Colts, I think they're the scariest competition in the AFC as far as outside of Baltimore and I put them and the Patriots and Houston and the Chiefs all in kind of the same. I think Baltimore's a little bit better. I think they've shown the way they control the ball and control the clock. They can dominate as long as they play their game, they'll dominate. I think. And the same with the Colts. The way the Colts can control the ball, they had 2 100-yard rushers after Marlon Mack went down with a broken hand.
Right.
He should be back for playoffs. But their backup running backs, Nyheim Hines out of Garner, North Carolina. We played him in high school.
Right.
Dude's a monster.
Right.
Now he's one of the fastest backs in the league and a great receiver. And then Williams coming out after Mack went down, had 100 yards too. Their O-line is dominant and young, which you don't see very often.
Quentin Nelson is the best offensive guard in football, and I'm willing to argue willing to argue that for sure.
Maybe the best touchdown celebrator we've seen too.
Did
you see yesterday?
We don't get that, Reds. Good morning, say.
His touchdown, they did a keg stand for him as a touchdown celebration. It got called back.
That goes to show you 2 things. That goes to show you he's a Jersey guy, and that goes to show you how they party in Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah, they don't play no games.
Exactly. So we're going to kick it to, before we leave the NFL alone, I got a request for a top 6. My top 6 seeds right now, I'm taking, in the NFC, I'm taking San Fran, no particular order. San Fran, Green Bay. This is 16 I think will make it. San Fran, Green Bay, Minnesota. Help me out here. San Fran, Green Bay, Minnesota, Seattle.
Okay.
I'm taking my Eagles and the Saints.
Okay. Yeah. I think what it is right now is what it's going to be at the end of the season too.
Right.
I just think it's about
I think it's about the NFC East playing out.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's the only, if it's either the Eagles or Dallas get the 4 seed.
Good morning, Chief.
And then Seahawks.
Right.
I actually think it's going to end up being the 49ers. I think it's going to be the 49ers and the Vikings as your wild card teams. And then I think the Seahawks pull it out with Green Bay, Saints. I'm going to say Eagles just because of the schedule. I think it's a little easier.
Okay. So you got San Fran as your 1 or 2 seed?
I got them as a 5 seed.
So you got Seattle.
Yeah, I think Seattle.
Okay, because Seattle's got a tiebreaker.
They do.
Yeah.
And they play them again.
Yeah, right. That was the first one.
Loss.
That was the first one of the 2.
And I think they're going to win again. I think they're going to beat them for a second time.
I just feel like this.
I think the 49ers will lose after the bye week to the Packers. After the Packers bye week next week.
If San Fran beats y'all, San Fran's going to beat Seattle. If San Fran doesn't beat y'all, Seattle's going to play y'all really tight. And Seattle's going to play San Fran really tight and get out by the chin. Because one thing about it, I don't mean any harm to Seahawks fans, but it took you guys overtime to beat that 49ers team. That was a hell of a 49ers team. before we segue to kicking it old school, because that's Steven's segment. I guess because it's being asked about, we'll just put it out there. The whole Colin Kaepernick situation. Basically, for those who don't know, he was supposed to have a workout this weekend in Flowery Branch at the Atlanta Falcons facility. It was told that at the point of him deciding that he was going to come to Flowery Branch, it's going to be 22 of 32 teams going to be there. Hugh Jackson and Joe Philbin were going to be the main two coaches with NFL ties that were going to lead the workout. Colin Kaepernick, if I'm not mistaken, this was supposed to take place Saturday. Per what a quote came out from his agent, he got a non-guarantee of employment waiver to sign on Thursday from the NFL from the situation to be able to to waiver going to this workout, which is a business way or business terms of saying to the NFL saying to Colin that we can't guarantee you employment based upon your display of talent at said workout on Saturday. He chose to go to a high school in Riverdale, Georgia, and held the workout privately. That was still filmed, but it was not under NFL sanction, so it was a private standalone workout. 8 NFL teams showed up. My Philadelphia Eagles showed up. Definitely want to shout out my Eagles for doing that and just supporting a great cause for a great player.
Who's the great player in the great cause?
The great cause is getting somebody in the league who should be in the league, and shouldn't be blackballed because of a decision that he made organically, first of all. Second of all, the great player, in my opinion, is Colin Kaepernick, who we forget was a Super Bowl starter.
I mean, so bad players have started Super Bowls before.
Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. If you sit here and tell me that Colin Kaepernick and Trent Dilfer in the same conversation, I'm going to walk out of this podcast.
No, but I think he's in the same one as Brad Johnson.
Totally disagree. Now, granted, let's be clear. Brad Johnson, you can't even really compare him. Brad Johnson was a journeyman. People forget that Brad Johnson was a starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings for years before he ever got to Tampa Bay on the back end of his career. After things failed in Washington. Or did he go to Washington after Tampa Bay? I think he went to Washington after Tampa Bay because he got in Dan Snyder's pockets a little bit on the back end, like most veteran free agents like to do. So, but I feel like with the Kaepernick situation, it was great what he got to do to show his talent. I'm very happy that he got to show his talent. I'm very elated that his talent was seen by reputable NFL scouts in 8 teams, which is 1/4 of the NFL. I think it was either a GM or an executive scout came out with a quote from the workout saying that Colin Kaepernick still has elite level arm talent. I think that's kind of more obvious than anything. What's up, Coach Hemphill? Good morning. And from there, it's a scenario, to me, in my opinion, where Colin Kaepernick should be signed by somebody by the end of the year. But I also feel like I wouldn't be surprised if Colin Kaepernick doesn't get a gig because of the media firestorm that will come behind your acquisition of said talent. Meaning all of the media, different people in all of the different media, I guess constituents that will literally arrive at a facility the very first day that he pops up for somebody's, for him reporting somebody's work or somebody's facility for the very first day. So I feel like ultimately the Kaepernick situation, to me, I'm kind of sick of it.
I think it's over.
I wouldn't say it's over. To me, the Colin Kaepernick situation I lied. It's 2 things for me. Socially and personally, what you did, I appreciate you because you did something that other black athletes did before you, but not too many black athletes have really been willing to do majorly in today's social media era where you're so ridiculously scrutinized by people who really don't know really too much of anything about what it is that you really do. And they just look at it from...
But here's the thing, no one had an issue with his protest. As far as what he was protesting, everyone agreed that was something that needed to be protested. It was when he did the protest. Right. When he did the protest, did nothing but it actually took eyes away from the actual protest. It became, he shouldn't have disrespected the anthem and the flag like that, instead of cops shouldn't be disrespecting citizens and their rights, right. Which is what the conversation should have been. If he brings that up in a post-game interview or on a podcast or on Bill Simmons or, right. Or on the news or whatever, right. that conversation still can be had without him taking away from his own message. Right. I think the timing he did it was wrong, just because of that. But on the other hand, I don't think he's lost anything. He's lost an NFL career that was fledgling when he lost it. He was a backup when he decided to take the stand, and then he got paid buku's amount of money from Nike. Now he's donated a lot of money in his time and everything, but he made money off of his social protest. Whereas people keep saying he sacrificed something, but he didn't. He sacrificed a backup playing career to be a more famous person.
I mean, right now, I feel like he's sacrificing something. He's sacrificing doing what he loves to do because he watches people on Sundays who.
But he made that choice.
Good of a player as he is.
He made that choice.
So I should have my whole career be taken away from me when other people have made.
When you're no longer profitable, because what he upset, the idiots that thought his protest was anti-American, just anti-American. Those guys.
Colin Kaepernick is easily profitable to me because he can start for at least a quarter of the NFL. So that means this: if I can start for 8 out of 32 teams at least, that means you sign me. When I come in, people who like me are going to buy my jersey.
He's too old for those 8 teams to risk their future on signing him. So they're not going to sign him to a bigger contract. They're going to sign him to a smaller contract.
How old is Colin Kaepernick? Is he sub 30?
I think he's 30 or 28, or 29. But what I mean by that is he's whether he comes back now or not, he's nobody's future. No one's breaking the bank to give Colin Kaepernick the future keys to their franchise.
I don't disagree with that, but this is my thing. This is my point of disagreement with it. He's 32. Appreciate the case, man. You sure of that? Like, let me know that you're sure of that, Austin. I appreciate that though. But he's they say he's 32. So, okay. But I feel like this. The Detroit Lions started Jeff Driscoll yesterday. The Cincinnati Bengals started Ryan Finley yesterday. Who are some of the other bad teams in the NFL?
Well, I mean, Fitzpatrick is still starting in the league.
Ryan Fitzpatrick started for the Miami Dolphins yesterday.
They're the funniest team to watch. And I'm not saying he's better than them, but the negative that comes from his protest, which I think now there wouldn't be any negative from it now.
How can there be negativity from a protest when he was doing nothing but protesting something that most of the society that loves the sport, that loves the league that he participates in, they don't even get it. So I'm not mad at that.
It's because of when he did it. Like I said, they agreed with the protest, but some of them also thought it was disrespectful to the national anthem. And that part of it drew views away from football.
That's all I'm saying.
Which hurts the owner's pockets, which is why he got blackballed. Right. That's all I'm saying. And he got blackballed because he hurt the bottom line, not because of his protest. Because then the NFL turned around and gave $100 million to the same cause.
I find it very, true, but I'm saying, like, okay, I'm not. I won't even bother with that. All I'm saying is, at the end of the day, there are so many quarterbacks playing in the NFL that are first stringers that are starters or second or backups. That are starters or backups. I won't even say first, second. That are starters or backups that are not better than Colin Kaepernick. Give him an opportunity to do. He took the opportunity that he was quote unquote given. Then they told him we can't guarantee that we can even give you a look. That's weak as hell. Don't even call my phone for the Flowery Brands workout in the first place then. So on top of that, then when you bring me in into a program that makes sense, into an offense that makes sense, that allows me to show my skill set, that to me is better than half the quarterbacks that are in the NFL right now. So that's 64 quarterbacks, 32 teams, 2 quarterbacks, that's 64 quarterbacks. Colin Kaepernick is better than half of the 64 quarterbacks that have a job right now. Period. And going forward, he will be an amazing backup to have going forward. Who wouldn't want to have a guy like Colin Kaepernick if a guy like Phillip Rivers or Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees or Tom Brady or Jared Goff or anybody who's got a good quarterback, anybody who's got a serviceable quarterback. You can't. I don't even know who the backup quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys is right now.
Yeah, you got me.
You get what I'm saying?
That might have been the only team I couldn't. I have no clue.
You get what I'm saying, though? Like I don't know who the backup is for the New York Giants. Other than Eli Manning, because he don't count. Eli Manning's on the way out the door. But I'm saying, like, somebody who's going to be around. And
I agree with you that he has the talent and the skill to do it. It's just about weighing what the franchise weighs as far as his future versus if there is any, which I don't think there's any negative publicity publicity left.
Right. And I feel like this. It brought light to the situation of the injustice being done. And I think that's the most important aspect about what's going on. So to me, like, as long as that takes place and that light is being shined, then it's cool. But I just really love the last quote he made of the workout. He said, hey, man, at the end of the day, bro, like, stop being scared. Let me get in here so I can show y'all what's really going on and what's really happening. I like it. Like, sign Colin Kaepernick. Put that man out there to be seen, but doing what he need to do. You know what I mean? So that's just how I feel. Good morning, Ms. Donovan. Thank you for tuning in.
And whether he gets signed or not, to me, I just want to stop talking about him as far as off the field stuff.
Right.
In a sports context. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
no, I feel you, because at the end of the day, the last 2.5 years of conversation, last 2.5, 3 years of conversation,
it's not been about his play
as a social activist. But by the same token, for a brother like me who's sub 30 in America, for a black man sub 30 in America, I appreciate the last 3 years of Colin Kaepernick. Because,
but it didn't move the conversation forward. That was my point.
I mean, I wouldn't say.
It did like for the people that paid attention, but people didn't pay attention.
Well, that's too damn bad for the people who don't pay attention.
But that's what I mean, though.
You know
he's
what
not.
I mean? Like, and by the way, what
he's
are you
moving
really,
it forward.
And by the way, what are you
in
really
the communities that
to?
already pay attention to this stuff?
True, but I'm saying, and by the way, what are you really paying attention to? Because it's a lot of because I know you more sharp of the tongue now, but that's a lot. That's one of the things that kills me about it. It's a lot of people who tune into a lot more bullshit in this world that is to be seen and that is to be taken in by people who are content who are content receivers, or people who like to receive content. But when you got a guy like him who's out there on the mission that he's on to portray the things or to portray the message that he wants to portray, how many people tap in? How many people listen? Not enough. But that's just me.
I don't know. I find it disingenuous. After he took the Nike contract, I was done with Kaepernick.
Right.
I don't think getting paid to talk about social justice is like that commercial he did was so pandering. It was, I don't know.
Well, I feel like this would be a great conversation I'd like to have with you, I guess, off camera. Maybe with a beverage one of these days. We'll figure it out.
All right. So moving on
to Kicking It Old School.
That's right. We have something we've seen over and over again, but a Lakers-Celtics domination. And I wanted to talk about, I think, the most unappreciated player of all time, Wilt Chamberlain. And everyone knows who he is. They know he's the gentle giant. They know he had a 100-point game, and he's a great player. But I want to talk a little bit about how great he was. Earlier, you were saying, having the Michael Jordan versus LeBron debate, and I think one debate that never got had enough was the Michael Jordan versus Wilt Chamberlain debate. And I'm here to put that debate to bed. Okay, I'm telling you right now, Wilt Chamberlain's the greatest basketball player to ever walk the face of the earth.
Now, one thing I'll say is this. This is your segment, but all I'll say is, ultimately, we would have to agree to disagree. But I want to have this conversation with you at different times.
Just wait till I tell you everything. All right.
I'm going to cut you off.
So let's start this first. 15 years old, 7'1", 7'8" wingspan. Scored 71 points as a sophomore in high school. That started getting looked at by pro teams. Well, back then they were really at 15 years old. So back then they were really serious about the amateurism in sports. You weren't paying anybody. If you went pro, you stayed pro. You went the Harlem Globetrotters route as opposed to the college route.
Right.
Well, he said, no, I want to keep my eligibility, and changed his name to George Marcus.
Right.
Played for the adult league Pittsburgh Raiders. It wasn't the NBA. It's probably like a step below the NBA.
Yeah.
But he's a 15-year-old, 16-year-old playing with grown men.
Right.
His 17-year-old season, he averaged 40 points a game during the regular season and 74 points a game in the playoffs against grown men. At 17 years old. All right, so then he gets to Kansas. First game in Kansas, just to give you an idea of how it went, 42 points, 29 rebounds. First game.
Right.
Rookie of the year, 38 points a game, 27 rebounds, 8 NBA records, including All-Star Game MVP, 23 points, 25 rebounds in the All-Star Game. In his rookie year. All right, you're not going to find those anywhere now, mostly because of the one and done. I'm not going to say mostly, but because of the one and done, and two, there's no one as dominant as him, ever. Also, I want to talk about, people say he didn't play against any competition. That's untrue. He played against Bill Russell, the greatest team of all time, NBA-wise, as far as longevity. The Celtics in the 50s, 60s, early 70s were...
arguably one of the best sports dynasties of all time, regardless of sport.
I mean, Russell won 11 and 14, but even Russell will tell you, like I'm going to talk about here later, he averaged 50 points a game against Bill Russell and the Celtics for an entire series.
Wow.
Put up 55 rebounds in a single game.
You doing work.
The 62 points against Bill Russell. I saw Bill Russell say it with his own mouth.
Right.
He said the game is and has always been about getting buckets.
Right.
And no one did it like Wilt Chamberlain.
Right.
The greatest move he ever had, I always thought, was the dunk or the baby hook or something like that. But his turnaround fadeaway was his signature shot of his career.
Right.
So, I mean, I can go through all the numbers. We could literally spend all day going through the numbers. But ones I really want to talk about are actually the mythical stature that is Wilt Chamberlain.
I got you.
All right? So, 100 points in a game. We all know that one. All right? Wilt Chamberlain raced Jim Brown, who was considered the greatest athlete of the 60s. At that time, especially, he was revered as the greatest athlete. Well, he did a foot race at 7'1", 305 pounds, and beat Jim Brown in a foot race.
Right.
Pissed Jim Brown off, so Jim Brown said, I want a rematch, and he got beat again.
Okay.
All right, so you're talking about 7'1".
Jim Brown's he couldn't have been that smart then to realize that a guy who's 7'1" wouldn't beat him in a foot race. Slap. But anyway, continue.
Regularly, because his coach at Kansas wanted to raise the goal to 12 foot.
Right.
So regularly he would dunk. He would do competitions on 12-foot goals, and he would dunk with ease. There are stories of one of the hotels he used to stay at a lot in San Francisco. A guy was outside and didn't have a jack for his car, so Wilt Chamberlain walked outside and picked up his car for him while he changed his tire.
Yeah. I'd have to see that because I don't believe that shit.
Okay.
I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. You gotta be Superman.
He is said to have benched 600 pounds.
I can go for that, no. I can go for that.
Now, for people who don't bench press, you're talking about 3.5 foot per arm,
Right.
600 pounds going up and down. That's incredible. Arnold Schwarzenegger himself said, Wilt Chamberlain is the strongest person I've ever met in my life. When normal guys were doing tricep extensions with 120, maybe 135 pounds, he would do them with 150 to 170 pounds.
I can go for that.
Wilt Chamberlain used to pick me up like a baby, okay? And instead of Conan, I'd grab his arm and he'd just lift me up off the ground. And that's a dude that's known for being a strong guy.
That's Arnold Schwarzenegger. First thing you think about
monster,
Arnold Schwarzenegger is muscles. Favorite thing you think about.
Before 1972, they did not keep the blocks in a game stat before 1972.
Right.
From all the research I can do, we've had people that went back in the video logs and tried to see what his would be.
Right.
The best guess is 8.5 blocks a game.
I can go for that.
On average.
I can go for that.
Had a game where he had 29 points, 24 points, 32 rebounds, 15 assists, and 12 blocks. So he had the first quadruple double before they started keeping those stats. And this was in game 2 versus the Celtics. He had a quadruple double in the finals.
Right.
All right. Game 3 of that same finals, he had 41 rebounds. In game 5, he put up 29 points, 26 rebounds, and 13 assists.
Right.
The only center to ever lead the league in assists for an entire year. Another year, he averaged 55 points, 26 rebounds, and 8 assists in the same year.
Right.
The dude was not in the longevity. There was teams that were calling him when he was 40 and teams that were calling him when he was 50 and offering him contracts.
Right.
The Nets, the Cavaliers were still offering him that.
I got you.
In his mid-40s, this is the last one I got 2 more I'm going to talk about. In his mid-40s, he was doing I heard Larry Brown on a video talking about this. They were doing a pickup game against Michigan State, young Magic Johnson and some of their players in the league that were going out with Magic that year, and then Wilt Chamberlain in his 40s. Mm-hmm. So Wilt Chamberlain blocked Magic Johnson on a drive to the rim. Magic called a foul. Everyone there was kind of saying it was iffy and it was a BS foul. And Wilt Chamberlain looked at Magic. He said, "Okay, young man, you going to call fouls like that? No one's going to score at this basket for the rest of the day." And Larry Brown
scored the basket the rest of the day?
Larry Brown said he blocked every shot for the rest of the game.
I believe it.
Every single shot in his mid-40s, playing against young NBA players. And my last one, his confession in his biography, Wilt Chamberlain confessed to sleeping with 20,000 women. I'm not saying this is something to look up to or it's not disgusting, because it is. But that doesn't make it less mythical or less amazing.
I mean, don't get me wrong. We have female listeners, and I appreciate each and every female listener we have out here. Thank y'all ladies so much for checking us out. But that's dope.
I mean, just time management wise, how do you fit them all in?
He didn't believe in load management
at all. None at all. Oh God.
That's funny. So, but nah, I'll say this about that on the back end. Wilt Chamberlain, in my opinion, can go down in the history of sports, internationally or nationally or American sport, as arguably top 3 most dominant athlete ever walking the planet. And I think that's something super, super cool and a ridiculously amazing accomplishment and feat. I want to send a special birthday shout out, man, to my boy, you know what I'm saying, Cam Andrews, man, you know what I'm saying. Happy birthday, my boy. It's got to be a little more, I can't put your rap name out there. None of this, man. MJ, and Tiger, 3 most dominant athletes. Wilt Chamberlain, Shaquille O'Neal.
Okay, get the Shaq over here.
Wilt Chamberlain, Shaquille O'Neal. I'm gonna give you somebody more modern day. Wayne Gretzky.
Okay. Yeah, Wayne Gretzky's the most dominant player.
Because when you speak about dominance to me, if you speak to, right, who's to say, right? Because there's no film. That's very valid. Who's to say? But the thing of it to me, with the whole dominance definition, you also got to look at element. Wayne Gretzky's the baddest mofo ever on 2 skates.
Oh, for sure.
Like on skates. I can roller skate, but I can't ice skate home.
So like now it seems sports are so selfish. You would never, it wouldn't even comprehend that a guy's going to lead the league in scoring and assists like Harden did a couple years ago, right? Like that seems.
You have Russell Westbrook, who was a walking triple-double 3 years in a row. It's like.
And Gretzky was not just by far the best goal scorer. He was by far the best passer.
He was by far the best hockey player, period.
Yeah.
On the ice for like 10 years running.
I think he still has 60 records or so in the NHL.
I know ain't nobody called his goal
over
yet.
80.
I know anybody called his goal record yet.
And they never will.
Like 832 or 8 something.
Goals, points, assists. That dude, he'll never be touched.
So segueing now back to a current sport. We're going college football now. This past weekend, the Tua Tagovailoa hip injury. For those who are wondering, he had a dislocated hip. He also had a posterior wall fracture. He has surgery this morning up in Birmingham around 10:30 in the morning local time. Future-wise, I think because of the fact that he's a very, 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 what's up for that? Good morning, my boy. I think, it's a situation where he'll be back because of the fact that he's a very God-fearing man. I think he'll do a better job than most elite-level college football players who get hurt preemptive to pro or extended collegiate success. And I think he'll do a very good job of ignoring the noise and being able to keep the radio off proverbially to keep him focused on what he needs to do. But I think that what Nick Saban did in allowing that to take place was extremely selfish and it was ridiculously stupid. I don't feel like, now I mean no harm, but Mississippi State wasn't going to beat Alabama this year even with Mac Jones at quarterback. So it's a situation where, why do you keep the guy in? You're boat racing Mississippi State. He goes out, he gets hurt. Like, why the hell do you?
And he was already banged up with the ankle too.
Right, and he's, mind you, you just lost to LSU. Mississippi State wasn't going to beat Alabama yesterday, even if it was close. I wouldn't even have played to a Saturday, because mind you, come LSU game, he was 10 days post surgery.
Yeah.
So you're telling the kid to go out and play 2 football games within a 14-day, within a 14-day ratio. Within a 14-day ratio in relation to like a post-op.
Yeah.
Like you want me to play 2 football games in 14 days and I just got out of my ankle 10 days ago? I just got out of bed 10 days ago? It doesn't make sense. But it is what it is.
So is their season over? Even if they went out and things fall into place, do you put them in over
That's a conversation
Big
that I'm
12,
having. That's a conversation.
Oklahoma
I'll answer the second part of your question in a second, but the first part of your question, their season is not over, first of all. And second of all, it's a such thing in the SEC now that when you don't go to Atlanta, you still go to the Sugar Bowl. So I would love to see Alabama in New Orleans. I think seeing Alabama in the Sugar Bowl is always something to see in college football. It's always one of the better like marriages of a college football team and a bowl game come bowl season to see Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. So it'd be cool, but I don't think their season's over at all.
Well, I meant more of like college football. Without Tua, does the college football committee hold that against them enough?
Okay, for the playoffs.
And Oklahoma's a one-loss losing to Kansas State.
Brad Nessler said this. Brad Nessler said this post LSU game, LSU Alabama game, and I was at the point where the game was about to be over with. If Gary Danielson said this, same broadcast. If Alabama can beat Auburn without Tua, then Alabama deserves to be in the top 4, arguably.
Okay.
For my viewers out there, arguably. But we shall see. There's no way to tell that right now. I don't think they beat Auburn right now because they don't have anybody to block Derrick Brown III, Derrick Brown Jr. Derrick Brown Jr. is going to be the first interior D tackle taken in the draft. Who does he remind me of? He has a slipperiness about him like a Warren Sapp, but he has a stoutness about him like Vince Wilfork. Very scary combination. Can't be blocked. Not single block at least. Georgia had their hands full with him. They blocked him as a whole, but Georgia had their hands full. And we already spoke about the Chiefs flat. We feel like they're going to be one of the top 6 teams in the playoff picture. Pat Mahomes, the Chiefs will be driven as far as Pat Mahomes allows them to go. That's just how we feel about your respective Chiefs. So, leading on to the next point about this college football conversation, the transfer quarterback and the gamble that is the transfer quarterback. Now, let's look at 2 different spectrums, 2 different sides of the spectrum here, people. Let's look at Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, and Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow was an Ohio State guy, transferred to LSU. Justin Fields was a Georgia guy, transferred to Ohio State. Jalen Hurts was an Alabama guy, but not just an Alabama guy. He was arguably the most successful quarterback that ever played Alabama and then took his services post-grad to Oklahoma. Jalen Hurts just led a 27-point comeback against Baylor this past weekend. Had a terrible game, admittingly knew he had a terrible game, put him in a position for him to be in a space to where he was able to lead that comeback along with a couple of really good defensive plays by the Oklahoma defense as well. You got Justin Fields. Right now, Justin Fields is doing what we call in sports batting 1,000. The kid's got, I think, 35 total touchdowns. I think he might have 1 interception. I think that's the only turnover of the ball he has, period, was me. He hasn't lost any fumbles in the run game, and he's an effective runner too. And right now, if you've been paying close attention to the Ohio State Buckeyes in Big Ten play, they're kind of boat racing the Big Ten this year. It's kind of starting to look like Clemson and ACC, or what they just did to Maryland. Like, it's ridiculous. Now, granted, I cannot wait for this weekend because Chase Young and Justin Fields and the Ohio State Buckeyes play in what I'm calling the UntiedJordans college football game of the week, Ohio State versus Penn State, which will be a noon kickoff on Fox. So make sure y'all check that out. But with that being said,
and I think just a little off note, I think Penn State's they're gonna create that win triangle that we were talking about last week between Minnesota, Ohio State, and Penn State, which I think may allow either Oklahoma to sneak in, depending on how well they dominate the Big 12 championship game.
Right.
Could have, like we said, Alabama sneaking back in.
Now this is what I will
or
say.
Oregon.
Now, this is what I will say. I feel like ultimately, the Big Ten's kind of Ohio State's to lose because the glass slipper just broke off of PJ Fleck and Minnesota's foot the other day with the loss to Iowa. So and then watch out for Iowa. I think Iowa's going to be really good because They got really good trench play every year, every single year since 2002 when I watched Robert Gallery come out there, second overall pick to the Raiders. A little history for you guys, but Iowa keeps amazing trenches, O-line and D-line. I think that's going to be able to potentially drive them to Indianapolis to see Ohio State, so we'll see. Because I would love to see Iowa and Ohio State go at it in the Big Ten Championship. Because that's going to be a trench battle. That's going to be a trench battle for your ass. I could potentially not wait to see that. So like I said, back to the transfer quarterback gamble conversation. You got Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts. Great, doing all amazing things. All three of these guys will definitely be in New York, or they should be in New York. And I think these three guys right now have 3 golden tickets to New York until they lose them.
They're my top 3 right now.
For sure.
Those 3, and they're all transfer quarterbacks, which is crazy.
Right. Amazing. Happy belated birthday, Desmond Hofer. Good morning, man. Thank you for tuning in. So, with that being said, you look at the other side of the spectrum. You got Jacob Eason. I saw him 2 weeks ago against Utah. Very skittish. Utah is very, very well known for pass rush. They do it. That's what they do out there. Trench play on the O-line too, but pass rush is big in Utah. Utah got after his behind all day long. O-line didn't hold up well for him. He looked just very skittish. Looked very iffy under pressure, if you will. So that definitely was disappointing to see, because I thought that he potentially this year could have been a top 3 or top 10 pick with his type of arm talent that he had. But then again, he's got the UW's kind of laying the egg. You look at Kelly Bryant. Kelly Bryant, to me, is easily the worst transfer quarterback situation to take place other than Hunter Johnson, which goes to show you that, like, guys who are, like, looking to go to Clemson to be great, if you don't want to be at Clemson 4 years, you're probably not going to end up being good where you go after that. Hunter Johnson was the #1 quarterback in the country 3 years ago out of the state of Illinois. He ended up transferring to Northwestern to now where he's a 3rd-string quarterback in Northwestern. I don't even think you see in the pine. I don't think he's
Kelly Bryant's at A&M?
Kelly Bryant's in Missouri.
Okay.
And he's also not really hitting on the hill of beans out there in Columbia either for the Missouri Tigers. So, college football top 4 preview. Number 1, holding strong for a second week, LSU. Number 2, Ohio State. Number 3, Clemson. Number 4, Georgia. My top 5 and 6 are Alabama and Oklahoma, respectively. In my opinion, I think that LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, and Oklahoma are the last 6 teams left to have a real legitimate shot at the playoff. The only team outside of those 6 teams that potentially had a chance to break into the playoff, in my personal opinion, was Minnesota. And once again, as just aforementioned, their glass slipper broke this past weekend with a loss at 23rd ranked Iowa, or 20th ranked Iowa at the time.
So Penn State beating Ohio State this weekend doesn't put them in that number 4, give them a chance?
Penn State isn't better than Alabama or Oklahoma.
Yeah, but better is not always the factor they use.
I mean,
right?
Better's not always a factor.
You don't think Penn State or Ohio State, one loss Ohio State's as good as Alabama with a backup quarterback?
No.
Really? I think Ohio State's defense is. I think Ohio State is.
Hold on, ask me that question again.
Is Ohio State or Penn State with a 1 loss better than Alabama with the 1 loss and the backup quarterback?
Penn State, no. Ohio State, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not good. But Penn State, they're not going. And they can win out, and they still wouldn't go, because I just don't see. I don't see the SEC not putting 2 teams in the playoff. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I just don't see that right now. So that's one bold prediction for the rest of the college football season. I don't see Clemson not getting in, because Clemson's going to run the table. So much for that. Oh, my goodness.
So you think it's between Ohio State and Oklahoma, pretty much, and Georgia, I guess.
Well, I feel like this. For the last spot, it's really down to Alabama, Oklahoma, or Georgia. LSU, OSU, and Clemson, as long as they LSU, Ohio State, and Clemson are the 3 teams that can go undefeated right now and punch their ticket. Conference championship and all. SEC champion, Big Ten champion, ACC champion. You look at Georgia. I don't think Georgia's going to beat LSU in Atlanta. So, Georgia, you got to figure them out. Alabama doesn't go to Atlanta because they lost to LSU anyway already. So you got to look at what they're going to do with Alabama. Then what if Oklahoma runs the table and is a one-loss Big 12 champion with a kid who's going to New York? And they talk about stuff like that too. You know what I mean? So we shall see. But
yeah, I think it ends up being LSU, OSU, Clemson, and Oklahoma. Actually,
I feel like this. If UGA has an amazing show in Atlanta, or if they win in Atlanta, that makes it all bad for Oklahoma. Oklahoma can't have Georgia play well the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I think Georgia loses
because
to LSU.
Because if you ever look at it, Oklahoma and Alabama always kind of end up around each other in the playoff, but they never have seasons that parallel to one another's success. If that makes any sense. What you're saying right now is a direct parallel to saying Oklahoma's success is going to be predicated upon what these Georgia Bulldogs do the rest of the season, because they're looking for a spot that Georgia's got locked down right now. If you ask me, the most solid spot in the college football playoff to be had by anybody right now is Clemson. And Clemson's going to be a 2, a 3, or a 4. So, do with it what you will. You know what I mean? Or have it your way as you so choose.
So do you think LSU wins the game against Georgia? Or do you think Georgia wins?
LSU wins 34-20.
Okay.
In Atlanta.
Yeah, I think so too. And man, that's wild, ain't it? Think about this. Our top 10 teams, their quarterbacks were playing on one of those other top 10 teams last year.
But that's the beauty.
College recruiting is crazy. Well, man. It's awesome.
It's not that it per se is crazy. It's awesome. Don't get me wrong. But it's not that it's per se crazy. It's just the fact that college football recruiting now is just like it. Like they used to say it's an arms race, but now it's a real arms race.
Yeah,
because it's like, hey man,
20 teams at the top.
It's like, hey kid, man, we want you to come here. We'll take care of you. You're gonna go pro, and you're gonna win big. Right now.
And they feed into these kids' egos now too. They say, oh, don't worry about it. You're not getting playing time. Just come play for me. Just transfer over here.
Yeah,
transfer over there.
Right. And that plus the whole paying of the player for his likeness. That's gonna end up being a scenario where like it's gonna be de facto free agency. And it already is. Yeah. Perfect example. Bo Nix is in the transfer portal. But Bo Nix just started at quarterback on Saturday, people, for Auburn, and lost to Georgia. Now, why does this matter? His father, Auburn great quarterback from back in the day in the 90s, Patrick Nix, says, okay, I want my son in a better pro-style quarterback system for the league. Gus Malzahn's like, man, we'll do everything we can to make Bo league ready. See what we did with Cam. Just give me a minute. Work with me for a moment. Type situation. So I can go for it.
Patrick Nix says, see what you did with Nick Johnson?
Yeah, but then again, Nick Marshall. But then again, the thing with Nick Marshall's nowhere near the passer that Bo Nix.
Oh, he's not. No, I was just messing.
No, touche. No, I get exactly what you're saying. Wholeheartedly.
So you think he ends up at like Georgia next year, or
Bo Nix ends up.
Or Oklahoma, is he Jalen Hurts' replacement when he finally goes to the league? Whatever, running back.
Newsflash, Bo Nix. And I don't know how this will happen, so I'm just really being phantasmic when I say this.
Yeah, I am too.
Fantasy driven. Bo Nix ends up at LSU next year, and they start the new choice for a quarterback wave. Because anybody's got leverage to get a guy like Bo Nix potentially if he did want to leave Auburn, it's LSU.
What do they put in the water down there that makes hands stickier in Baton Rouge? You ever notice their receivers are insane?
Right.
Every year they got at least one that's got.
Well, you got to think about it.
Elite speed or elite hands.
You got to think about it. In my opinion, LSU is the DBU. So those receivers play the best defensive backs in college football for the last 10 years running.
They're prepared.
That's why they're so great.
4 years in college, they're prepared.
And a comment on I had a follower of mine on Facebook asked me about the South Carolina Gamecocks. They're not worth mentioning on my show. They're terrible. You guys lost to Appalachian State. Will Muschamp definitely shouldn't be you guys' football coach going forward because he's only defensive minded. You guys had the third ranked pocket passer come to your school this year, and he hasn't produced anything at all. And you guys have a guy who's going to be a serviceable receiver in the league by the name of Brian Edwards. You guys got to get it together down in Carolina. But then again, because of the fact that I'm a homegrown Columbia product that has despised the University of South Carolina football since I was like 5 or 6 years old, I could really care less.
Yeah.
That's my take on your Gamecocks loss.
All right. So Heisman, my top 4 Heismans right now.
Give me your top 4.
I got Joe Burrows coming to LSU, 10-0, 3,900 yards, 41 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions.
Right.
Then I have Justin Fields, who has 25-41. I know it's a lot less yards, 1,400 less yards. He also has 41 touchdowns, and like you were talking about earlier, 1 interception the entire season.
Right.
The reason I think his yards are lower, they take him out in the fourth quarter. They've been waxing these teams, and he's gone.
Somebody just said that on Twitter, on Instagram this weekend. They said, "Bro, I forget where it came from, but it said if he finishes whole games, man,
he probably has 3,500 yards and 50 touchdowns right now."
Right. And to speak a little bit more about South Carolina, just give you more of a professional analysis of your team. You guys are okay. Y'all beat Georgia, but you lost to Appalachian State. So what that tells me is you guys got to know how to learn how to stay hungry throughout an entire season. That's just what it tells me.
And like you're saying, I think that comes with coaching. You know,
sure.
It's your talent only gets you to the field. I think coaching gets you to the W's.
Well, I feel like this. The players still get you to the W. I won't open up that conversation again. But by the same token, a coach can make a bad decision that then subsequently is carried out by a team, but the player, even then, I can be a kid who get a call from a coach and I don't think this sounds right. I'm the quarterback, I'm the Mike linebacker, okay, I'm gonna swap it out. We ain't gonna do this. And I'll bear the brunt of the ass chewing on the back end. I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen the last 6 years I played professionally in arena football. Coach makes a stupid call. Hey, bro, we doing this in the huddle. Boom, we go score. The coach don't even cuss him out. The coach don't even get him out in the back. And he's like, yeah, I told you that was dumb. Like, so it is what it is. But my top 4, or did you give 4? Or?
No, I was.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off.
Then I got Jalen Hurts, another guy with 41 touchdowns and 3,900 yards, and he's a little bit of the opposite of Justin Fields. They've been down and had a couple of closer games, so he's been in till the end of the fourth quarter.
He's easily been the scrappiest quarterback.
Yeah, and he's making those plays at the end of the game. Even the game they lost against Kansas State, the dude was incredible. He had 5 touchdowns.
Right.
And then my last is actually one, I don't think we've even mentioned him on here before. His name's Justin Herbert from Oregon.
Yeah.
A lot of people are moving him up the draft boards. I think he's up to number 2 behind Joe Burrow since Tua got hurt.
Right. Well, the last one I checked, they got Chase Young 1 and they got Joe Burrow 2.
I mean, it's quarterback-wise.
Oh, quarterback-wise. Yeah.
He's got 2,600 yards, 28 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. He's not a runner. He's not as mobile as these other guys as far as you're not calling runs for Justin Herbert, but he can get out of the pocket.
He can definitely throw it.
Big dude, big arm. One of maybe the biggest arms since Joey Harrington at Oregon I've seen.
Yeah, but don't say Joey Harrington in the same parallel as Justin Herbert because you're gonna jinx the kid. Jesus Christ! It's like I'm even afraid to say quarterback from Oregon number 3's name again.
I mean, just for
this is bad.
All honesty, he played 10, 12 years in the league for Oregon system quarterback, like they like to call him down there. That's not
Joey
bad.
Harrington played that. I don't think Joey Harrington played that long.
Yeah, he did, man. He was a backup for pretty much.
I gotta look that up.
Like the last 8 or 9 years, he was a backup only.
Well, I mean, yeah.
But still,
they say the best job in the world is an NFL backup quarterback.
And I believe it, man. Doug Pederson, he's like 65. He looks so nice and fresh. He looks, well rested.
Yeah, man. He needs to lose some sleep trying to get us into the playoffs. But segueing from there, give me 1 second. Segueing from there, we already
got the NBA reviews.
So yeah, we're going to NBA, guys. The Kings, Sacramento Kings, they snapped the Boston Celtics 10-game winning streak last night. LeBron James played in front of Kobe Bryant last night as the LA Lakers put, I think, 125 up on the Hawks. Trae Young is balling out of control. Just putting that out there. I think it's a crash course in the NBA for the Lakers and for the Celtics to end up in the finals. Once again, as I mentioned earlier when I spoke about the greatness that is LeBron James on the basketball court, I definitely feel like LeBron James can open up the conversation in my mind, in my opinion, about Michael versus LeBron as far as all-time greatness if he were to win a championship this year with the Lakers. I think it looks really good for the perspectives of that. But I think the LA Clippers are now officially not a sleeping giant because they're one of the best 3 teams in basketball. I'm not saying like I don't know, but they're a sleeping giant at this point in the season right now because they just got Paul George back, who had 37 points in 20 minutes the other night. I think that was Saturday night game.
Oh yeah, against the Hawks as well.
Looks so smooth, bro. Like it's a 2 minute 5-second highlight on ESPN.com about his scoring prowess that game. I suggest you guys check it out. He went crazy.
And not just that. Also had 33 points in his
overall debut with the Clippers, right?
With nine rebounds too.
Right. So so the 37 was the first time he was on the court with Kawhi, correct?
No, he hasn't played a game with Kawhi yet.
Really?
No. Kawhi's missed the last 2 games as well.
Okay.
But that was his home debut.
Right.
So that's his first time home at Staples Center. Right. It's a big night. And the dude balls out. I've liked Paul George a lot. I think this is what he has to do to beat the Lakers. We said it earlier. I think LeBron's still the king because of how he gets his team involved. Right. But also, Kawhi's never had Paul George beside him. You know, he had Timmy. He had an older Timmy, an older Manu, He's never had another superstar in their prime. Right. Top 4 in the MVP voting last year. I think he finished second.
Right.
And 2 of the 3 or 4 best perimeter defenders one-on-one in the league. So that's what scares me about the Clippers. At the same time,
when you make 3 straight ball switches when you make 3 straight ball switch rotations with the Clippers, you go from Paul George to Kawhi Leonard to Patrick Beverly.
Yeah.
Or you go from Pat Bev to Kawhi Leonard to Paul George. 3 straight defensive ball
or
rotations.
Montrezl Harrell or Shamet, who I think is an underrated defender.
Landry Shamet, yeah.
He's a great shooter.
Good morning, man. Thank you for tuning in, big dog.
Another thing, you're talking about the Kings last night beating the Celtics without De'Aaron Fox, didn't have their starting point guard.
Right.
I think the Kings are a young team that they're not going to make a push this year because the West is just too deep. But if we go to that, they're talking about going to just the top 16 teams make the playoffs.
They can end up being in that conversation.
Every year. Yeah. They'll be in that right. 18,
I really
19,
want
20.
That for the NBA. Like, can we get a top 16 seed?
I agree.
Wake me up when the playoffs start. Jesus Christ.
The East have 4 teams that might win the East.
Or wake me up when LeBron plays. You
know what I mean?
Nowadays, 10:30 watch.
We act like the West has 8 teams that could win, legitimately might be in the finals this year. And I know that sounds crazy, but I think they honestly do. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that the Trailblazers could make a finals appearance.
The Trailblazers just acquired Carmelo Anthony. Them boys not playing.
They have Hassan Whiteside. I think Nazir Little's a rookie.
Yes, and they have Hassan. Bro, Hassan had a double as man.
He averages.
Hassan not playing, bro. Hassan Whiteside is easily the most underrated big man in the NBA. I'm putting that out there right now. I've been waiting to get.
It's an effort thing. Shaq and Charles Barkley talk about he takes nights off.
Right.
If he doesn't, he's impressive.
But it's an 82-league season too. Give me 50 games, and I guarantee you he's gonna give you 50 great defensive performances night in and night out.
But I don't want 50. I want 82.
I don't need 82 games. Wake me up when the playoffs start. The playoffs don't start till when?
Ew.
Come on, bro. Think about it.
I want every night. I want Harden. I want every guy to have Harden and Westbrook's mentality.
Think about it.
Another team in the West that can win it all.
Think about this. Now, it may suck for the player because nobody likes to work on Christmas. Christmas All-Star.
What do you mean?
Like, with a 50-game season, you would see the All-Star game in like Christmas. That's dope. That's dope.
I think 50 is a little bit too, I don't know. I think it's too much of a cut. Just because you can never get the owners to go down there.
We're talking financial bottom line. But if I'm going from 82 to 70, then instead of me doing that, I definitely would rather go from 82 to 70. I definitely would rather go 82 to 50. If I'm going 82 to 70, what's 12 games? But what's 32 games? How much more of a championship? How much more championship outlook do I have if I got 32 less games?
But then Kawhi's got to play every game.
Oh well, it's basketball.
No, I agree with I agree with you. That's the reason. That's why it doesn't make sense with something like Mark Cuban saying shortening the league is the best thing that's happened in the history of sports. It's not shortening the league, but load management.
I can agree with that.
I have to disagree with what he's saying because it might be great for him.
I agree with you disagreeing.
For the fan, it's the worst thing because you're talking about there's 20 games I might happen to buy a ticket to that I don't get to see the player I came to see.
One point, Priggy, what's going on, my boy? Good morning, Dave. One good point that one of our followers just pointed out is that the NBA is fun to be seen by everybody. Perfect example. I won't get the example he named, but The Hornets and Pistons. This happened Friday night. I was at work down in uptown Charlotte. The Pistons lost by a game. My Pistons lost by a game-winning 3-point shot by Malik Monk. That's great basketball. Now, neither one of these teams are probably going to make the playoffs, and nobody.
I think Detroit's got a chance. But
I think we do too for it.
They're not going to beat the Celtics or Philly.
You know what I'm saying? But
Toronto.
it was a great basketball game to watch between two teams.
Competitive.
You're right. Between two teams, super competitive. One, which is a group of young guns, the Charlotte Hornets, and then you got some old wily vets with the Pistons. You got D Rose, you got UntiedJordans, who's a vet now.
You hope they're able to make that leap this year.
I just feel like we got a real poor man's big three in Detroit, and I hope that we can get the most out of it with D Rose, Blake, and UntiedJordans. If we can get those guys to really tap in and come together, I think we can have a poor man's big three in a day now where we're back to the 2-man weave, or we're back to the 2-man game.
And I think, like you're saying, Reggie Jackson's a good shooter. Beside D Rose, who's a slasher.
And the thing with Reggie, I like Reggie's defense. Yeah. Reggie gonna play. That's why I really hated that I don't know, but I want to say I really hated that we let Pat Bev get away some years ago. Cause I want to say Pat Bev was a Piston, then he got away from us. So I could be wrong. I gotta look that up.
He might have been wrong. I'm not a big Patrick Beverly fan.
I love Pat Bev because he just plays with energy.
Yeah, I think he's annoying. He doesn't scare me as a defender or anything, but he's annoying.
But to me, okay, he's the same thing as Tony Allen was. But Tony Allen...
I disagree. Tony Allen was like 6'8", 6'6".
We talk
strong, was a big guy.
And Tony's like skinny.
He gives you more on the offensive end than Tony Allen did.
Okay, true, but neither one. But we're not expecting. If I'm NBA coach, I'm not expecting neither one of y'all to like do anything but distribute basketball.
Yeah, I think
I'm looking for y'all to scrap something.
Tony Allen can shut down Kevin Durant multiple games, but Pat Beverly he doesn't have the physical tools to. He might could shut down Westbrook for a game or two.
He could try. You know what I'm saying?
And he will try.
Right.
That's one thing I do like about his game. He does. He's annoying. I mean, annoying in a good way.
Right.
His defense annoys the offense.
Okay, cool. And by the way, Patrick Beverly's never been a Piston. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Who is he with then, for my followers out there who can answer this? Who was Pat Beverly with before he went to the Clippers? Please let us know. I want to say the Rockets.
It was the Rockets.
It was the Rockets. So, college basketball. Michigan State and Seton Hall played this past Thursday. Maybe. Michigan State and Seton Hall played this past Thursday. I want to say that Michigan State got the W. Cassius Winston right now is my preseason. It's still not preseason, but he's my early season still pick for Player of the Year. Michigan State point guard number 5. You know him on the court from wearing a green Michigan State green headband. I need one of my followers is looking at me on Instagram right now. I need you to let me know the name of the kid from Seton Hall that went crazy the other night against Michigan State. Seton Hall got this guard. The boy just got buckets the other night against Michigan State. I didn't even see it. And I was having to watch the game on the humbug. You know, I was going to cover, so I wouldn't watch it. Man, the dude was going crazy. UConn upset 15th ranked Florida. Why does this matter? Why did I bring it up? Because a guy who wrecked Duke 2 years ago, a guy named Kerry Blackshear, number 24. He's their center forward now for Florida. He was the number 1 grad transfer in the country, so it should be interesting to see what he has going on for the perspectives and for the future. I guess wrapping up the college basketball.
His name was Myles Powell.
Myles Powell.
I just want to give him a shout out because, like he said, he was.
Myles Powell, hey boy, you can hoop. Looking all 3
Before
cameras.
we close up the NCAA talk, I want to talk about my team real quick, the Tar Heels.
Yeah.
We're very hurt.
You like North Carolina basketball?
I do. Always have, man. Basketball. Everything college is North Carolina.
We'll split it with y'all this year.
South Carolina?
No, sign a diehard Duke fan since don't try me like that. I've been a Duke fan.
So
man,
sorry.
Come on, dude. I'm a Duke fan.
No, y'all are probably better than us right now.
Y'all know what's up.
We got 2 of our starters are hurt. Two more of our freshmen are hurt. Right. 2 starters hurt. Right. Cole Anthony's putting the team on his back right now, looking like the freshman of the year, early pick.
Cole Anthony's playing right now like the national player of the year. Cassius Winston is my pick, but he's playing like the national player of the year.
It's the rebounds, man. He gets strong rebounds for a point guard.
But look, but,
And 12 and 9.
He's running pro-ams and he's getting in work with NBA guys all this offseason. Like Cole getting ready for the NBA.
Having that Greg Anthony as a papa doesn't hurt.
That's Greg. Okay, so that's Greg Anthony's son.
Yeah.
I seen that fat nose. Makes sense now. You got a little schnoz. Gotcha.
And I mean, it's like with Dell and Steph. It gives you that, if you already have that talent, you have that pedigree,
right.
Having those connections to get the best, best coaches, best drillers, it gives you even that more step up, and it shows in his game. He seems to be a step ahead of the other point guards, of the other freshman point guards.
I can agree.
Like, I think him and Cassius, they play a similar game as far as the way they control it with the pace.
Right.
They're calm. That's
the only difference, because Cole is an attacker. Cole gonna go at your neck. Cassius, he gonna kill you softly. Cassius he gonna kill you with the needle. Cole just gonna.
But they both control the game in their own way.
Yeah, facts. They definitely
shows a lot of maturity in Anthony's game.
Right, because Cassius is a 4th, 5th year senior, and he shows the same prowess as he does. So I definitely agree with that wholeheartedly. Going to wrap up the show at this point with the last part of my 2 cents on the most. I don't know, man. I've been around a long time. Never really seen anything on the field like what I saw from Myles Garrett last Thursday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. For the probably literally 100,000th time media-wise, I'll tell what happened. 8 seconds left in the game. Last play of the game. Next to last play of the game. Myles Garrett he proceeds to tackle Mason Rudolph to the ground. They get into a disagreement. Mason Rudolph grabs at his helmet. Myles Garrett does the same, he reciprocates the same. He ends up successfully prying the helmet off of Mason's head. They get into somewhat of a back and forth, like somewhat of a physical altercation, if you will. It looks to seem as Mason Rudolph kind of grabs at Myles Garrett's crotch, as David DeCastro at the time is coming in to intersect the fight. Myles Garrett with his offhand takes the helmet and swings it over, just like I hit this mic, and he slaps Mason Rudolph upside his head with the helmet. Marquise Pouncey comes out of nowhere, and he from there proceeds to go WWF as best as he could on Myles Garrett, while being still pretty much overall covered and protected by David DeCastro. Really smart way David DeCastro handled that situation. Nobody says enough about that, I don't think. This is my thing. 3 things. Number 1, there's no place for it. Number 2, in the same breath of me saying that, if he really did try to grab at his crotch and try to pull it at his area, at his man area, if you will, then that's a really low down thing, which is the only thing that I could see that would justify why he has such a jerk neck type of reaction to want to swing and hit him in the helmet, or swinging the helmet at him and hit him in the head.
Oh, I could justify the whole thing. I'm an old school bully guy. Mason Rudolph started it.
I don't disagree with that, but at the end of the day,
Myles Garrett took it too far.
Right, but at the end of the day, I'm not tripping about it. You know what I mean? Because it was a chippy play. But the game was starting to get chippy at the end of the game anyway. So it was what it was. But ultimately, I just feel like this. It was terribly wrong. I love the fact of how remorseful he is, because he's showing the human element that he is imperfect. So that's dope. I can respect that wholeheartedly. And last but not least, and I guess most importantly on my end, is situations like this. A guy like Myles Garrett needs to take the situation by the horns, and then on top of taking it by the horns, he needs to use this as an outreach to be able to show kids how to not be so hot-headed on the field in certain moments like this. Take his platform and be positive with it, Myles. That's all I ask of you at this point. Because you can't play no football. You ain't playing no football until probably next August. Or you probably ain't playing no football until next October, next November. No bullshit. Just saying. So I feel like at the end of the day, it's a scenario where what he did was wrong. If it was more intentionally malice post-helmet strike, then I would be more disappointed in you. But ultimately, all in all, I'm not really
If he goes for a second swing with the helmet, it makes me mad.
Right. You know what I mean? But I also feel like
the one swing makes it seem like a reaction.
Right.
He didn't think about doing it. The guy grabbed his crotch. He had a helmet in his hand. He swung it.
Right. Now, my thing is this. What was dumb on Myles' part was to hold the helmet in your hand after you snatched it off.
Yeah, just drop it.
Hell, I wouldn't even
stick him.
Drop
him and punch him in the face.
I wouldn't even have been that mad if you took the helmet off and you just punched him in the ground on the field.
I thought that's why he took it off.
Now let me be clear. That would have been ridiculously malicious and violent. Yeah. But it would have been less malicious and violent than a helmet on the man, helmet. Because of that helmet, if that hit him wrong the last night, that man would have died instantly on the field from hemorrhaging.
Yeah. And Andre Johnson did this a couple years ago with Cortland Finnegan, and they said, "Why'd you rip his helmet off?" He said, "Because I ain't punch him in the face when he's got a helmet on."
Right.
You know what I mean?
But see, Andre Johnson, he justified the action. Myles Garrett ain't say nothing about want to punch the guy because he had a helmet on, which makes him look bad.
Exactly.
You gotta want to say that next couple days, bro. Like, hey man, I was trying to beat him up. I ain't gonna lie. Okay, cool.
And I get that.
All right, that's fair. Oh, and free Marquise Pouncey.
Yeah, I think Marquise should have got 2 games because he's defending his quarterback, but at the same time, he also tried to curb stop Myles Garrett.
I feel like this. I would have given Marquise Pouncey. I would have just given Marquise Pouncey like a $75,000 fine. I wouldn't have suspended him. Anybody out there feel how you want to feel, whatever. I play the position personally, like professionally. I play center. I'm 7 years tenured in 2020. That being said, when somebody jumps on my quarterback, especially a particular quarterback that's really like my big brother for real in real life, but if anybody jumps on my quarterback and it gets that maliciously violent, then yeah, I'm trying to beat you up too. I'm trying to get at you too.
I get the punches, but once he's on the ground, I think you get one more and don't curb stomp him.
I feel like this. If David,
but I'm not hating on Pouncey.
No, I'm not saying you hating, but that's valid because it's a matter of being. It's a very fine line. That's the part you're getting to. I feel you on that. But my thing is this, and I'm gonna leave. This is my last thing I'm gonna say about it. At the end of the day, Myles Garrett got to send a Christmas card every year for the rest of his life to David DeCastro. And the reason why I said it is because if David DeCastro had not covered him up and stayed on top of him like in a bodyguard stance or a security guard kind of stance, then it would have been a situation where he would have got stumped out.
Oh, yeah.
And it wouldn't have just been Marquise Pouncey.
Oh,
he got stumped.
So y'all can see this. Y'all don't think I'm hating on Pouncey. This says Pouncey is still my favorite NFL O-lineman.
Touche.
Still. Because I'm the same way like you're saying.
I definitely like both of them as like my 2 favorite centers.
Just as a
if I can get it.
Yeah. So. Pouncey from the Steelers is my favorite offensive NFL lineman for his takes after the game, the stuff he says on his own podcast.
Right.
I thought it was
a very beautiful thing in relation to that situation. Like, he posted it on his own private Instagram. I followed him. So, he was able to be home this weekend for his daughter's birthday. Okay. His daughter had a birthday. He was able to be home for his baby girl's birthday. So, I thought that was dope that, the NFL tried to stick a brother for his paper for being right. But then again, it's like, hey, I got to do the vacation and I got to go kick it with my baby girl. So, F y'all. I ain't tripping. So, that's cool. Like, I can respect that. Wholeheartedly. And
Myles Garrett needs to take this time and do the things he likes outside of football while he has a little bit of time off, because next year he's going to have 20 sacks, maybe 25. I think he comes back. If he plays all 16 games next year.
When Myles Garrett comes out of that gym, oh my God. Because people forget.
Y'all remember what Josh Gordon turned into? He left the league for a year and then turned into the Terminator.
Right.
I mean, he's a giant. If Myles Garrett does that,
Myles Garrett,
he's already a machine.
Right. Myles Garrett was top. He was 7th in the NFL in pass rush win rate. What that is, people, is for X amount of chances I get to sack the quarterback, that means that I'm 7th best at getting a guy off of me as fast as possible to go sack my quarterback. That's what pass rush win rate is. Try to say that 3 times fast. So yeah, like he's 7th in win rate. You know what I mean? So we'll see, but
I want to say
he's just a freak of nature, like physically and aesthetically, like he's gonna be ridiculous.
I mean, he's 4th in the league in sacks. He already had 10 sacks.
He had 10 sacks. He was double digit before that happened. So so for what it's worth, now that the chapter is closed on Myles Garrett's 2019 season, he went double digit. All right, I'll take it. You know, I'm not making no more money, and now I'm strictly working off of a signing bonus in 2 years and a year and a half of NFL pay, which is a lot of money because by the grace of God I was the #1 pick. But you know, good luck to him.
Yeah, I think they said he made 188 a paycheck on his rookie contract, which is a lot.
Right. So I mean, but ultimately, you know, I guess from us here at UntiedJordans, we just wish Myles Garrett the best. We wish Mason Rudolph the best as well. But just
don't find something,
bro.
Don't find something you like more than football. I know he has other interests, but trust me, dude. Like you're not going to be better at anything else because that dude.
Myles Garrett don't want to do nothing but pass rush. That's why he listens to R&B music.
He is so incredible,
because he likes to relax after he wreaks havoc on the football field. But
it's the Untied Jordans podcast, episode number 2.
Episode number 2. Once again, guys. My name is Jordan Mosley.